We are the epitome of Black female love.
It's easy for us as Black women to hold up the banner and the calls for everyone else. But again, who holds up the banner and the calls for
that? We as a Black church are perpetuating the same behavior as a patriarchal evangelicals have been doing.
Right. Hello, 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 my sisters. How are you all?
Hello to you.
How are you? How is everybody?
Hello, hello, hello. Let's start with you, Dr. Wright, so we can go ahead and get this over with. Viewing audience, let us know that you are here. Rosalind Leslie out of Delaware. So good to have you with us again on today. Come on, viewing audience, come on in, like, tag, and share. Like, tag, and share. Okay, Dr. Wright, let's go ahead and get it over with.
So first and foremost, as you all are all aware, our Kansas City Chiefs are the reigning Super Bowl champions. And I want to say job well done. But in the midst of the celebration, we had a very heinous place, and which took the life of a friend of mine, as well as my granddaughter's classmate's mom. And community, after being able to celebrate something so wonderful, is also trying to deal with and process why that venue was used in the way it was. So I just want to thank everybody for your prayers. Thank you for your love and your support. Thank you for your shout outs. We're going to get through this. But again, to God be the glory. Things like this occur and we don't always understand, but God is in control.
Wow. Wow. Well, I was very saddened to hear this. I actually, Dr. Wright, received a text message, and someone sent me a text and says, "Is Dr. Wright okay?" And I was like, "What? I mean, why? As far as I know, why?" And then they said, "Because what happened in Kansas City," and so I had not even seen it, and so good to hear. What about you, Dr. Bradford?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Things are going well here in Dallas, Texas. The weather is beautiful. So yes, it's about 80 degrees today, but tomorrow probably will be 30, 40, 50. You know how it is in this great state of Texas. There's no telling what you'll get from day to day.
So are you saying don't get comfortable?
No. Look, continue to wear your jacket because it may change. Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like an Indian summer to me.
Dr. Bradford, my grandmother used to say this was pneumonia weather when fools and babies die. Fools because they strip too soon, and babies because they don't know no better.
I mean,
Hey.
yeah, hey. And that continue. The weather being as it is, people continue to get sick. So, like, we're trying to get over bronchitis. We're trying to get over all these other things, but keep coming back because of the weather. Wallace, what's going on with you?
Well, I am in the great city of Chi-Town this week at the Proctor Conference and thoroughly enjoying where legacy meets the future.
The ill.
Beg pardon?
I said the big shot ill.
Yes, and it's cold here, so I don't want to hear about no 80-degree weather.
Well.
And I do need to share with you, Dr. Bradford, that I spoke with Dr. Gina Stewart, and she said to call her so we can get her back on the program to talk about her experience at the convention.
I'll call her this week.
Yeah, she said, told me to please tell you to give her a call because you knew how to connect with her. So I give you the message, and the whole audience heard me. So she can't say that she didn't get the message, right? Love my sister. I love my sister. I hope we talk a little bit tonight about Fonnie Willis and
Did
how
she
she
eat?
ate
Did she
up.
eat?
She ate up the folk that wanted to bring her down. And I'm just proud of a black woman say, I carry my own weight. I don't need nobody to pay my way.
I
Absolutely.
mean,
She was on it, doggone it, and the poor little white girl didn't know what to do with her. So they put the white man up there, and he didn't know either. So she
you know,
ate them alive.
But she was absolutely right. She said, I'm not on trial.
She sure did.
I mean,
She came in with attitude. You could tell by the way she strut and sat in the chair. It was
no,
going to be on.
what I saw was full confidence. What I saw was full strength. Most, that black woman stigma, what people say when they walk in assertive, people call them aggressive and bossy. But honey, she walked in there like a boss, not bossy, but a boss.
But the boss.
And Dr. Bradford, I appreciate it. Is it Bishop Jackson? Is that who's in Georgia? The Amy Bishop?
Yes.
I appreciated the statement that he's released as well in that regard. Now I have to, kind of take the other end. I've been disappointed in some of our sisters who have gone to social media and spoken negatively around. To me, I kind of hear them using the same kind of language that many of our oppressors have used when a black woman speaks with confidence and with assurance. And then others, I guess, I don't know, that part is just disappointed me. Also, I just remember the rallying cry that often happens with so many male preachers, even when they fall into their scandals. And yet I hear the NAACP quiet now while, she, her private life is being, raked over the coals and, right. That where, and so it brings up again for me about how black women, and it was one of our previous, guests on the broadcast, how we stand tall and shoulder to shoulder for almost every other group and especially for black men. But then when it is us, now you're silent.
All of a sudden.
Right, you're silent. And so that part, is a bit distressing once again,
Now, wait. You open the door, sis.
Okay.
You open the door. Can I just air it right here? I am so sick and tired of hearing, she just got an attitude. Why? Because I'm challenging you. Why? Because I don't receive everything that you're saying. Why? Because I ask questions until I gain clarity. Why? Why is it that you believe that I have an attitude because I'm intelligent and I understand what I'm talking about and I can articulate my stance? Why? You open the door.
And I can call you out on your untruths.
On your itch.
She didn't just say an untruth. She said that's a lie.
She said it's a lie. She said it's a lie. And I guess for me, I've appreciated some of the journalists, the black journalists that have been interviewed. I remember hearing someone on MSNBC and some local persons out of Georgia, who kind of, have stated this, but the fact that there has been no outcry from the same community that they circle the wagons around, they just right when
there you go with that door again.
We've had so many scandals lately, right? That is happening.
There you go with the door.
With the church, with black leaders, and then we as women decide to go on social media to talk about her, to take out of context what essentially what she says about no, I pay my own way. I need a companion. That's what I'm looking for. But then we have black women who've taken a snippet, who, you know, I sat and watched it. You know, I got my popcorn and watched her like I watched, you know, the stuff, the crazy, the foolishness, you know, around, you know, the 45 that I wanted to see. And to hear it in the context and another part for me, because we talked with our guest on last week of talking about with fathers and the role that they play with financial issues and those sorts. But my father as well instructed me, right? You got to keep some cash on you, right? You got to have your own stash, right? And so for white America then get schooled on black. They got schooled on black economics, but yet for black women to take what is it? Proverbs 31, O King Lemuel, the words that his mother taught him.
Come on.
Willis, the words that her daddy taught her. Okay, these are the words of wisdom.
But you know, we know that haters are just elevators. That's all they are. That's all they are. And for those black women that had the audacity to come and to speak out against the young lady, it's unfortunate that even the Bible tells us, hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Sometimes we don't hear everything. He said, be slow to speak. Come on. And quick to listen. We don't hear everything, but we jump in and we interject what we want to interject. We don't know this girl. She's obviously displayed everything that she needed to display to be who she is. So for us to jump in there and then start trying to tear her down, get over yourselves.
Right. Wait a minute. I want to poke some holes in that. I believe that they hear everything. They have just determined or they choose to say what they make judgment, period. So I believe it's a choice.
Yeah, I think you might be on to something there, Dr. Bradford, because it was a black woman who stirred and started the mess in the very first place.
Come on,
because she was angry. And because of her anger, she couldn't go to the sister and say, you know, let's have a confrontation and know how to handle conflict. We got a conflict here.
It's called conflict resolution.
Why you go to the other folk for them to bring out and try to disparage the reputation, the character of a woman who has paid her dues.
Paid her dues.
Paid her dues.
Clearly.
Not only did she paid her dues, but girlfriend, the white media, when she brought all those charges against certain people, they were like, oh my God. She has
and somebody who was elected, not appointed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you took the right
navigate the system and was able to do something effectively. Because I remember watching and listening to all of the legal analysts saying her charges were airtight.
Yes.
You know, it just airtight. And
all the credit.
Right. And for anybody in our community who understands the struggle, right, of being Black and doing something, here it is that you're willing to bring these charges against the highest office in this land.
Come on.
And now y'all want to talk about bedroom stuff, but y'all elected a man who had all kinds of bedroom issues, groping folk, vulgar language, but now you got a daughter.
Groping his daughter on national television, talking about how fine she was.
Please.
And gotten sued twice for slander about something that you did, that he did.
Never mind the fact that, number one, she's credentialed. Number two, she's educated.
All right.
Number three, she's confident, and she knows, not just she knows what she's talking about, but she knows how to articulate it.
She knows how to do
and she knows the law.
Period.
She knows the law.
Period.
And I bet you some of them same folk who criticizing her going out buying them $400 tennis shoes of number 45. Well, I know you got a guest backstage.
I'm glad I didn't know that.
See, Burns, you open the door.
Woo!
And now you want to close it, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Larry Daniels' favorites on Urban View said, the shoes are ugly. Let's just tell the truth. They just downright ugly.
I mean,
Yeah, somebody, y'all gonna be walking around in them.
Who?
Y'all's people, the same one that's criticizing Fannie Willie.
Oh, okay.
Y'all.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I mean,
she's talking about our people, them her
right.
people.
It was the way we looked at her, like, say, what?
Well, who are you talking about?
Everybody say, what you say, Burns?
Wallace, it's on you, boo.
Oh, I
Another
am so delighted to have during Black History Month one of my friends and colleagues, a professor, associate professor of pastoral care counseling chaplaincy at the Interdenominational Theological Center, and he serves as the pastor of the historic Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church of Duluth, Georgia, with a rich legacy spanning over 148 years. His leadership extends beyond the academy and congregational life as he actively fosters partnerships between the two realms. Additionally, he operates a boutique pastoral care practice. He also offers a tailored, specific for African descended men counseling service. This innovative approach addresses their spiritual, relational, and emotional needs at various levels, emphasizing their global significance in their communities. The Reverend Dr. Willie G-dman holds a Doctor of Theology of Pastoral Care and Counseling and a Master's of Divinity with a concentration in pastoral care, both from y'all didn't hear me, the Interdenominational Theological Center, the ITC. My brother, my friend, Dr. Willie G-dman. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm well, and thank you, Dr. Brenda, and thank you, colleagues who sojourn with her. If you don't know, I am one of the presidents of the Brenda Wallace fan club, and so grateful for this opportunity and grateful to be here. Grateful to share. I'm going to go ahead and posit that I know nothing. So I'm here to learn.
You're not going to up the dues on us, are you?
Oh, that's not true. You do know, and this is your field of expertise, Black men and mental health. So let's go ahead and get started. You hold and look at something called good enough mentoring. I tell my students that I don't need you to be perfect pastoral care providers, just good enough. So tell me, what is good enough mentoring look like?
Good enough mentoring is a model of in-depth pastoral care, which is the way I practice in this pastoral counseling that is tailored to the well-being of African descended men, and is tailored for African descended men's well-being, health, and wholeness. Because in my research and in my work, and I've been utilizing the methodology for over 20-something years in practice. I utilize it in pastoring. I utilize it in academic administration. Whenever I'm working with African descended men, but also whenever I'm working with African descended women. It is a model that is designed to first depathologize African men. And I found that and assert that to be critical because there's so much about African descended men that is considered problematic, even when they're dressed well, even when they're cued properly, even when they're educated and economically sufficient. But environments context still require African descended men to function in particular ways. And so what the model does is help help us to explore, to return, to reclaim, to remember, to recall lessons that we were taught and that we learned in our core relations and family, expanded in the larger community, as well as what we've gained as we produce families, is that what you provide, and it is mentoring, because what is provided is a relationship that pairs with African descended men. Health, I assert and believe, for African descended men is absolutely critical and can absolutely be experienced in a room, in a relationship, sitting across from somebody who looks exactly like them.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, talk to us about what might be some of the challenges that African American men face and mental health. What might be some of the challenges?
Challenges of mental health is that we are cogently responsible for our own thoughts. We're cogently responsible for our own considerations and well-being. There's seldom a moment where we experience the kind of supposed support that we believe we are due. We always have to find a way to argue, to maintain, and it becomes, while that may be beneficial and it is good, but it becomes problematic and can become toxic if we do not have a relationship, which is what I created in Good Enough Mentoring, that tells us, it helps us to discern where all this came from. And it's the tendency of being African descended. It is internalized white supremacy. It is internalized racism. It's internalized self-hatred. It is internalized notions that we are always insufficient and doomed to be incorrect. And even when we are accurate in our actions and detailed in our delivery, there's remains a question about our sufficiency and proficiency. Skill, and the word that I use now, is I've moved from a concept of confidence to a concept of competence. And so, because confidence is derived externally, competence is derived internally.
You're right.
Wow.
And so the work of Good Enough Mentoring is to help African descended men learn their competence, experience their competence, so as not to be thwarted by structures and systems that expect us to fail.
Wow.
On that same line there, well, what are the stigmas?
Wait,
that
hold on, Wallace. Before you go further, I need him to expound a little bit more on what he just said, if you could, please.
On confidence and competence,
and the stigma that he spoke of at the end, if you could, please.
Okay, the stigma is the expectation is the expectation for African descended men not to know what they're talking about, and not have the competence to deliver what they said they can deliver.
Wow.
So even when, as I said, when we are tailored and directed and pointed in how we put our lives together, how we construct our families, there's this constant expectation. We live with this constant anxiety that is not good enough. And so the work of Good Enough Mentoring is what you do is good enough, meaning it's not diminished, because that's the competence that we have to address. It's not diminished, it is not lackluster, and it is sufficient to the task required.
So to continue to follow up on that, when you say that no matter what you do is not good enough, that voice comes from what? What do you? Yes.
that voice comes from family.
Wow.
Community. That voice comes from church.
Mm-hmm.
That voice comes from education. That voice comes from sports. That is a common and constant requiem that is played, orchestrated in our spirits, in our minds, in our communities. It is constantly played over and over and over. So the work is the only way to have experience correct is for someone who is brilliant, someone who is capable, someone who is open to being vulnerable. Because in the work of Good Enough Men, um, I learn from the therapeutic engagement as much as the person I'm working with.
Amen.
Because I must go in and explore countertransference, must explore the messages that I have heard around my own competence, the own experiences of stigma. And that becomes the material that helps me to appreciate and value and even lend supportive voice, supportive relation with the person I'm working with would tell me your story.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite questions is, what are we doing? Where did you learn that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who told you that? And one of my favorite Bible stories is the one in the garden. Who told you were naked? What?
Right.
I didn't give that to you.
Mm-hmm.
So when we receive those messages and the more apt we are, better at performing and functioning, the more targeted the messages become, the more toxic that they can become, the more alienated they can become, unless there is a community of African descended men and women who has the stability, internal, external, who has the sensitivity, competence, if you will, to be able to sit and listen and ask the questions. Because that's one thing. Why African descended men do not like questions.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for the question that is accurate and helpful
Mm-hmm.
in their inquiries, so that they can ask the question, so that we can ask the question that we need an answer for. And so that takes time,
Mm-hmm.
space.
So can you say that again? And Wallace, I know you already have another question loaded, but
No. This is good because the
what about
media has so much poured into what Dr. is saying.
there's also a question in the chat from one of our viewers. Can you restate what you just said again for us, please?
Okay, I'm gonna try to remember.
And this was about the question about why men of African descent don't like questions.
Yes, thank you.
I don't like questions because questions are interpreted as pointing toward failed abilities. That's the assumption that I am not competent.
Wow.
Question.
You question
That's heavy.
because that's
You
heavy.
question
That's big.
because you don't believe. You're questioning because you don't believe I can do what I'm saying I'm going to do.
You don't trust me.
You don't trust.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so men assume too much. And I'm in trouble here. Assume too much responsibility for the trust of others. When trust is never about the self, trust is always about the other, whether the other is committed to bring what they know and can deliver.
Oh, okay. Before you move on, this is heavy right here. Because you talk about anyone questioning men and how they respond to them or the lack thereof. How do you what do you suggest that those asking the questions do, or how should they ask the question? How should they respond, or what should they do? I mean, this is heavy, and many of our viewers are perplexed by your response, and this is good because it challenges us to think otherwise.
Right. So the question is, how you doing?
Okay.
Are you doing?
Mhm.
How, and then again, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What are you? Um, what is your experience? And so it takes time to build a relationship. It takes time to build a relationship in ways that can tolerate asking, rather than going to the question, the question of, do you know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is it like for you to be you in this situation?
Okay. So does it have anything to do with tonality or just the actual question?
It has
Because I heard inflection, so I just want to be clear there.
it yes to all of that, because what is interpreted is investment.
Okay. I get that.
What's interpreted is investment. Are you with me? I can I lend myself to you being with me? And can I ask you if you are you are you open to what I have to bring?
One of our viewers, I apologize to cut you off, Dr. Aminata Nayiri, asked this question: is this stigma related to getting their good enough from the oppressor?
This is related to getting that good enough from immediate family.
Wow. So could this be that thing of where um, your worst enemies are those of your own household? So where something happens and others can let it go and others can forgive and move on, but your family somewhere by and by reminds you of what you did when you did it. Remember what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how you acted. Remember.
And if it was in the moment of
Wow.
the in the moment of the injury,
Mm-hmm.
um, back up, all families dysfunction. No families are ever going to catch it all.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no mother or no father is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And when we realize that we are not ideal, then we come and say, tell me what that was like for you.
Mm. Wow.
Okay. Stay right there. Stay right there. Um, when the right question is asked, when the correct tone is used, how do they respond, and is it reciprocated?
It responds at the level of counting upon self to be able to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's been a lifetime where there's not been a health, and I use differently rather than the right question,
Mm-hmm.
the healthful question.
That's good.
If
That's
the
good.
healthful question has not been asked in a lifetime, it takes a lifetime, it takes a long time
Mm-hmm.
to get to the place to work through, oh wow, to work through the shock of the healthful question being asked.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a
one
good.
of those, Doc, I believe, is do asking our brothers and our sisters, how do you feel? And I don't want you have a acronym for fine, and often people will tell you, oh, I feel good, I'm okay. But neither of those, fine, good, okay, none of those are feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And until we can get in touch with
Wow.
the feeling
Mm-hmm. That's
that
good.
goes with the question,
Right.
We can't answer the question because we have shut down the resource that will give us the answer.
Correct.
Wow.
Which I think is the Holy Spirit. The feelings are wrapped up in the Holy Ghost. If you got the Holy Ghost, you need to know what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
all right, so we're gonna come back to the Holy Ghost in a moment, and y'all know I love the Holy Ghost. But let me get to this, because I am I'm looking at Dr. Aminata in her statements as well. But I think if I hear the thing about asking the right question about doubt being in place, coming from wherever family functions, families dysfunction, understanding no family is not dysfunctional. Outside of getting a black male in front of a counselor, I still have not yet heard the avenue outside of getting them in front of a counselor of how to navigate these waters, because as of now, it seems as though because how are we going to get an answer unless a question is asked, right? So it sounds like any kind of inquisition then automatically sets us up to be on eggshells or unstable ground. So I've not yet heard how we navigate in this terrain.
it's let me see how can I offer this. What I usually encourage people to do is, when they want to ask a question, then turn around and say, well, to make a statement. And to make a statement, what I mean by that is trying to frame an example. I may be off track here. I may be off cue here. And so I'm wanting to know how to ask a question. I want to know if you can help me make a statement that would be beneficial to you.
So
it takes the accusatory tone away from it, particularly when we ask, well, why did you do that? And I would ask our viewing audience, and I try to not ask why questions, because why questions tend to put people on the defensive.
Right.
I got to defend something if you asking me why I did it. So changing that why question into what questions. What might have informed you to give me this response?
Right.
I hear y'all. That is not. I don't hear the realism of that in normal kind of dialogue.
That's what I teach every day.
Okay. No. Well, that's what I understand you, and I'm speaking now. I understand the training. I get that part. We have people who are listening, and so that language, what might have informed you, in that's not normal dialogue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You might change it then to say, well, what caused you to think that way? I want to
understand question of what I think. I really why I think the way I think.
I want to understand where you're coming from. So can you help me understand where you're coming from? It's a dialogue in which we want to be engaged.
I hear you, Wallace. Let's hear from the guest. I hear you, Wallace.
And you're absolutely correct. Is that most everyday conversations don't happen that way. We are taught, we are acculturated to be cut and dry and to the point. And we do not take time with each other.
So instead of saying, why did you do this, or why are you doing this, we say, what happened that you would do this?
Right. Tell me.
You know, what brought you to this place? And
Yeah.
I mean,
I,
instead of talking,
but I hear you, right? You're saying that, but what I'm hearing coming out of his mouth isn't what I hear you saying. So
okay.
you're
Yeah,
saying you heard what she asked, and so you're saying to say what?
tell me about that.
Say more about that.
What do you want to eat this evening? I want chicken and I want steak, or I don't care, whatever you fix. Okay. Tell me about. Is there a reason there's no investment in what we eat today, or what you eat today? So tell me about your day. Well, the traffic was bad. Almost had it. Somebody almost hit me. My manager was on a tear today. Profits are down. All right. What else? Empty. Empty as much as you can empty. And then what can you help me know? Can you help me to know what you did with you? What did you do to you when your manager was on a tear? What are you doing with you because profits are down? What are you telling yourself? Because what we're asking is, what we have put pressing for inquiry is, I believe in community, I believe you're competent. But this situation, something is helping you to believe your incompetence.
Mm.
Something is helping you to go to that space. Now, I love you, and I need you to believe I love you. I'm invested in you. I need you to believe that I'm invested in you. And I'm not trying to get anything from you, not trying to make you go any place, but I'm asking you to believe my investment in you.
Okay. I think I'm with Dr. Amanada right here, because I've been married for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pretty cut dry, to the point, bam. And we're able to get through the ish without I guess I'm struggling with this right here, because it seems as if we're going around the mulberry bush 1,000 times and not really getting to the issue or the root cause. Okay, you have trauma from your childhood. Okay. All right, it's there. So are we as wives, I see you, Dr. Amanada, are we supposed to say, okay, I'm here, I'm going to allow you to dump everything, I'm here to just take it? Or should there be such a way where we can circle it and be there for each other? Because this line of communication or conversation or dialogue, it doesn't seem realistic for normal folk.
Okay.
What is normal?
Nicole Bratson also has a comment. You want to catch that, Bradford, while you're there?
Let's see. I think that is hard because most men don't feel, that's very good, invested in. Maybe that's okay. It feels unnatural when it comes from the wife. That has been my experience with my husband. Oh, okay. So what I'm hearing is the husband may think it's disingenuous.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And so part of what, and I'm gonna probably get in trouble here. Part of the of wives is we got this to do, got this to do. as well as I see the whole picture already.
Ah, okay.
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
good to see the whole picture, but you can't tell the whole story.
All right. That's good. Okay.
Because the husband cannot move until he's clear.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I get that. I'm with that. But can I just
Uh-huh.
be real here?
Uh-huh.
Is it all right? It sounds like a bunch of coddling.
And
And I mean, I can say this, Dr. Gottman, because this is what I'm hearing, and we're very honest here and loving, and it's all in love. But who has time to sit around and coddle grown folk?
When
Now,
you
wait a minute. Omar King says, wouldn't that be the reason why we need to make space for each other?
We
amen.
make space for each other. We always do. 30 years in. But go ahead, Dr. Garman. This you the guest. I'm just one of the hosts.
and so the coddling, the reason we're frustrated with the coddling,
Uh-huh.
coddling, is because these are injuries that are natal.
Okay. I feel you.
These are injuries that are early in life.
Right.
And so the longer the time together you are, the more opportunity you have to access early.
Right. Right.
That is what will happen.
Yeah. I think a lot of that was just for me settled in the beginning. So in the early 3, 4, 5 years of the marriage. So I think that is probably why I'm questioning it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I get what you're saying.
And I will also encourage you to go back and check.
Yes. Oh no, it's a daily check, right?
Okay.
Because if there isn't a daily check, then there is a gap in the communication.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a gap in the communication. There's a gap in the conversation.
Yeah.
And then folk who are not as intentional as you will not know how to get there.
Right. I think one of the things I think I heard you say was listening is key.
Yes.
And I thought I just heard Dr. Wallace talk about, okay, I got you. Say, how do you feel? And when we understand the definition of feel, we're able to respond appropriately. And sometimes from what you shared earlier, we have to be able to understand what the question is. What doesn't matter what the tone is, but the question, when we ask the right question, understanding how we should ask or when we should ask it, because sometimes they just want us to sit.
But so do we. So do we.
I mean,
We don't want anybody to fix it for us. We just want someone to listen.
it goes both ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Omar King, one of you all want to catch this comment?
Yeah.
That's part of the white supremacy. We have learned to treat one another as objects and not subjects. The very things I hear women want from men is what men also need as well.
That's right.
It's a circle, right?
That's
It
right.
is a circle.
I agree
And
with that.
once that circle is broken, then there's a breach in the contract.
Exactly.
But we have to recognize who's the enemy in this. My approach with somebody else is going to be different than that of with my companion. I might handle someone else differently. With my companion, there's an obligation, not only an obligation, but a commitment. So, I'm concerned. There's a genuine concern. I need to know, or I desire to know, so that if I can help, I will help.
And I believe my companion has the capacity or will learn to, or experience the capacity to help me to know where to help and how.
So either companion has the ability or the capacity or learn the capacity to reach that goal.
Yeah.
But it has to be on both ends.
It has to be both.
Because
and,
if it's, no, go ahead.
And that's the learning measure.
Mm-hmm.
That's the relationship measure. That's the strengthening. That's the cohesion that is built.
Yeah.
And that's where we learn to start sentences and finish each other's sentences. And that's where our internal world becomes framed by our partners.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And that's rich right there. But that I believe that has to be communication though. If you stop communicating, stop listening.
And I'm going to be even more specific than communication, because we communicate all the time. Conversation.
I was going to use that word as well. That's good.
It has to be conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we exchange definitions of words. We explain and we talk what in the words what we mean, while we're using particular language words, so that it becomes a common definition. You know, we devise a common definition, a common understanding, and then we can raise common questions and then articulate common disagreements. And
Doc, would you talk a little bit though about building relationships?
Yes.
And relationships take time. And what I heard my dear friend Dr. Bradley, I got this to do that, and I agree with that. However, until we learn to rest, until we learn to slow it down,
that's right.
Who's the we?
It's not going to be we mean women in our conversation with men. We have to build a relationship, and I'm not saying that this is a romantic relationship. It could be a work professional relationship. But it takes time to build relationships, and we have to invest in building relationships.
It takes time to be healthful.
There you go. And healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It takes time to be healthful.
Yes.
We will go in for help, but help may not be healthful.
Yeah. Well, listen, you
It's not just on the women. I'm sorry. If I made that, if I was unclear, this is a reciprocal relationship. Relationship is not a one-sided thing.
That's good.
When I say relationships, I'm talking about who is in the relationship. Yes, I'm in relationship with myself because I love myself. Yes, there are internal family systems that I have systems in that are inside of me. But when I'm working with someone else, I have to have, it's not just me. All of us have to put in the
work.
That's good.
Yeah, that's it.
And so for African descended men,
just a second, Doctor. We had another comment from a viewer.
Okay.
Some are afraid to grow from here. They have been taught and be accountable for moving forward in what life is teaching us today.
Repeat that for me, please.
Some are afraid to grow from where they have been taught and be accountable for moving forward in what life is teaching us today.
Yes, we're afraid. We're often afraid, and we'll frame this for African descended men. African descended men are often afraid to grow, can be afraid to grow from where they have been because they have not necessarily experienced healthful engagement that will be supportive in the movement.
I like that. One you shared earlier about I think Dr. Wallace, my dear friend Dr. Wallace shared investment. And then you gave an analogy, a small analogy about dinner.
Mm-hmm. And so if really, to dinner is that okay, we're going to try Asian food tonight, or we're going to try Ethiopian food tonight. I would raise on that. Okay. You can Ethiopian. Okay. I'm going to try Ethiopian. And then what do you want? I want some fried chicken. All right. You have fried chicken. Together, eating fried chicken in Ethiopia establishes a sustenance in the relationship that they can both tolerate the distinction.
I'm with that.
And it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We are good enough with each other where we're strong enough, we're assertive enough, we can fathom the distinction. And then that's a minor situation. But when we get to a large challenge about going to a doctor, about getting surgery, about getting medical support, if we have built a tolerance on what would be a meal, then you get to medicine and medical well-being, there is an established healthful comfort level that we can work on and work through. And as African descendant male, I have experienced myself accepted with my fried chicken.
Now, brother, you're gonna have to come back and talk about why Black men won't go to the doctor. Now that's a whole other show.
Wow, we have reached our time on today.
Wow, this has been awesome.
This is good
Wow.
stuff.
Wow.
Okay.
If
To
it's
our
been
viewing
helpful,
audience, if you want to hear Dr. Goodman, again, just put it
Put it in the chat.
in the chat. This has been powerful on today.
Rich. Rich.
Wonderful.
If you,
don't leave us
if
hanging
you
out.
if you hang out backstage for us, please.
Dr. Wallace, our guest for next week.
Oh Lord, help me.
It might end up being Dr. Goodman if he'll be so kind as to
I'm
come
saying,
back.
Resma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I sent something out.
All right,
ladies.
We
That's
bless God for you. For those of you who are visiting, viewing with us on today, we thank God for you. Put it in the chat if you've been blessed by our guest on today. All right.
Yes.
Lord says same. We'll see you next week, same time.